Jeff Keighley is back, and his quest to silently insert himself into every single corner of the video game industry inches one step closer to completion with the Lame Awards 2023. Now with Fortnite integration too, because why not? I sure do love further bridging the gap between reality and digital landscapes, one step closer to that alluring Ready Player One dystopian nightmare. I like how the trailer advertising an event started by hyping up Jeff's own personal Fortnite skin to a chorus of thunderous applause celebrating him specifically. What do you mean this is an ego trip? Psst, nah, he obviously cares about video games. You can tell because they dumped one of the few actually important awards off to the pre-show. Yet, enabling more people to enjoy this medium, I sleep. Getting Gonzo to perform a comedy sketch right alongside me? Oh, we gotta dedicate several minutes to that. So, another year, another 4 hours of my life that I'll never get back. Another big burst of proof that the people at the very top of this industry do not enjoy that their claim to fame is video gaming. Like, I'm not asking for a giant creeper statue in the corner, and for the award to be shaped like an Xbox controller, but something to actually identify the medium you're celebrating would be nice. This show looks borderline indistinguishable from garbage like the Oscars, and is presented with that exact same flavourlessness. More time is dedicated to Hollywood celebrities reminding you to stretch than it is to developers, who spend years slaving away at these experiences, getting to barely mutter out a single thank you. And the games they choose to spotlight too. You know how this is a medium of endless possibilities? Where a failed family game can transform into a multi-million-dollar film franchise? Where a title featuring an identity-less cube can tell a heartfelt story through the power of song? Yeah, you're not going to find any of that here. And if you are, it'll be relegated to the pre-show, or pop up so sparingly that it qualifies as a jump scare. Realistic graphics, tough masculine action shooter gameplay, all those typical Hollywood adjacent beats are the only things permitted here. Nothing too crazy or stylized, please. Look how out of place Mario, motherfucking Mario, feels at this awards show. One of the founding fathers of gaming comes across like the black sheep of the night, an IP they're forced to acknowledge because it's such a big one. The Game Awards hates video games. It desperately wishes it was celebrating any other medium, and that could be felt in spades this year. That's why I won't have much nice to say this time around. Usually there's at least a couple fresh announcements and moments that I can point to and say, hey, look at that, with the utmost of positivity. But this year, it's just Big Walk. A wonderful breath of fresh air, developed by the untitled Goose Game team. This looks really quaint and pleasant, a calming trek across what admittedly looks like a default Unreal Engine map, though I get the sense that's intentional, designed to create contrast between the Earth-like environments and these weird little goobers you're playing as. Obviously some kind of multiplayer elements, though I'd hope there's still a single player aspect, as this looks like the kind of game you could have a really deep and personal experience with. I also like that the player characters look like stick figure doodles brought to life, That adds a fun layer of quirkiness and personality. Big Walk just looks like a really nice time overall. I'm keeping my eye on this one. I hope it's as good as the trailer makes it out to be. Anyway, yeah, now that we have the one interesting and artistic game out of the way, back to all of the consumable products. Sega had a rather interesting trailer, announcing 5 new games at once as part of their experimental Super Game initiative. I have to say that most of these franchises don't particularly interest me. I'm pretty much just a Sonic guy when it comes to Sega IPs, although Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi are now on my radar at least. Speaking of the blue bastard, no Sonic announcements in sight. Yet. Wow, Sonic Scrappers wasn't real after all. I'm almost sad about that one. Though I did see several Sonic fans spouting off this idea that we need to support all of these titles to ensure that Sega returns to some former glory, and like, no, we don't. I don't. Unless you're some kind of investor, you really should not be caring how any company turns out. That is hideous levels of shill behaviour. Please only buy a video game if you want that video game. Don't just throw your money away to help strengthen a company that does not care about you. At the end of the day, Sega's one and only goal is to siphon cash out of your bank account. Support the games that genuinely appeal to your tastes by all means, but if you're only buying out of some horribly weaponized sense of company loyalty, then please reevaluate what you're doing. Also, if you're purely coming at this from a Sonic fan's perspective, you know, oh, if I support all of these games, then Sega will get bigger and Sonic will get a higher budget. Then no, that's not a guarantee. If Golden Axe were to sell really well, then why would the next logical step be redistributing that profit into an entirely different franchise? Don't worry, Sonic's not going anywhere anytime soon. That bastard is borderline unkillable at this point. Ah, no, wait, he's undefeatable, isn't he? Hey, God of War got some DLC? That was nice. Although the fact that it being free got a big crowd reaction was quite sad. Boy, how far this industry has fallen into monetization hell, when DLC being free is now treated as an exception to the rule. Man, I am not happy. This show put me in a bad mood. Speaking of Kratos, the man himself showed back up to present best performance. Several jokes being made about his biblically long speech last year, naturally. One of which backfired quite spectacularly. See, they had this bit where music played mid-speech to kinda cue him to get on with it. Obviously scripted. It was very cute, very funny. But then that same music played a few more times throughout the night, during other people's real speeches. And unfortunately for the behind-the-scenes team, we'd just been let on to exactly what that music meant, so everybody in the audience knew that this was the Game Awards team telling these people to fuck off. One brave soldier even recorded the teleprompter during these moments, and yikes. Could you imagine putting your blood, sweat and tears into a project for several years of your life, finally being acknowledged for that effort, then after only about 30 seconds of being able to talk, having a big, bright screen telling you to get off the stage so that we can allocate more screen time to the event's creator, getting to live out his childhood fantasy of playing with a Muppet? Personally, I wouldn't be too happy about that one. It gets especially awkward when winners of Game of the Year, are dedicating the award to a team member who died during the game's production, and some cunt operating the teleprompter is telling them to hurriedly wrap the speech up. In my video last year, I did the Monty Python "Get over there!" as a joke because Christopher's speech was exceptionally long. But this year, that joke manifested into goddamn reality. What a fucking disgrace. Why did they need all that extra time, by the way? Well, apart from the squawking Muppet getting to talk to Gonzo. It was for the celebrities, of course. Those big Hollywood figures who clearly couldn't give less of a fuck to be there. Those are the people we should be dedicating our time to at the, video game awards show. I suppose Kojima was also allowed to talk for as long as he wanted, but that's Kojima. One of, if not the most respected creatives in all of gaming. Basically this industry's version of a celebrity. I'd hardly call him emblematic of the average developer. Total favoritism too, by the way. Jeff Keighley is famous for sucking this man's meat at almost every single one of his events, so of course he was going to let Kojima talk for as long as he wanted. Wouldn't want to interrupt that particular game dev, but you, Mr. Pathetic, non-Kojima Baldur's Gate developer, merely dedicating an award to a person that died, you need to get off the stage, like ASAP. You're taking too long, man, you're killing the vibe. Meanwhile, Matthew McConaughey? Yeah, you make all the interstellar jokes you'd like. Simu Liu? Yeah, oh, please go on about the importance of stretching. I mean, that is some genuinely good life advice, and I'm glad he got a platform to say it, but God, can you imagine how quickly a developer would have been sniped off the stage if they'd tried saying any of that? And you, Anthony Mackie? Yeah, go to town interacting with everybody in the fucking auditorium. Yeah, go for it, man. You try your hardest to recreate the Keanu meme.
Don't you yell at me. I love you more. Love you too. I see you. I see you.
Honestly, respect to Timothée Chalamet. He walked up to the mic, gave the award, and let the developers take the stage with no BS. Good on him. I also quite enjoyed the modded controller 360 joke. That was probably the funniest thing said across the entire 4 hours. Speaking of Anthony Mackie, God, he looked pissed when The Last of Us won Best Adaptation. Maybe he'll be twisting some metal of his own later on. Can't say I blame him though. The Last of Us TV show was great and everything, but it was hardly an adaptation. More of a one-to-one translation. The original game was already so cinematic, and bordering on being a movie anyway, so hardly any work was required in making the jump to television. Now, I haven't seen Castlevania, Gran Turismo, or Twisted Metal, nor have I played the games they're adapting. But I have played Mario, and all I'm gonna say is, Best Adaptation is a new category for 2022, celebrating the surprising spike in game-to-film/TV translations we've been getting recently. Mario damn well better win that next year. I still kind of agree. I mean, Best Adaptation, right? We're grading them on how well they adapted the property, aren't we?
And now to talk about some of the biggest games, it's a pleasure to welcome from the Muppets, that's right, the great Gonzo!
Oh, thank you.
Seriously though, what have you been playing, Gonzo?
Well, lots and lots of Tears of the Kingdom.
Do you think when Jim Henson first created the Muppets, wanting to construct a cast of whimsical characters that could delight people of all ages through their timelessness and innocent charm, that part of his vision included some self-important wannabe celebrity using those characters to spout off trendy, popular game titles? 'Cause I'm willing to bet that one wasn't on Henson's vision board. Well, at least it was something different, momentarily sparing us from yet another all-CG trailer with a deep, slow voice narrating the various camera pans, all while subtle vine thuds accompany every cut. Seriously, why are so many of these things adopting this format? The show a fancy animation meant to vaguely let you know the premise, all with absolutely zero gameplay approach, only barely works for existing IPs, and yet here you had several brand new ones attempting that style of trailer, and subsequently completely squandering their first impressions. Little note for any developers watching, I'm not buying your game to watch a 3-minute long animation, I'm buying to play a video game. So, especially if you're brand new, focus on that gameplay. I promise it'll help your project in the long run. At least Kojima left his trailer vague on purpose to cause intrigue. These ones are meant to get me all pumped up and excited, when no, all they leave me with is a feeling of complete disinterest. Speaking of Kojima, I ragged on the double standard present with his time on stage, but that's not his fault, and what he had to show did seem rather interesting. He's making a horror game, or at least I think that's what he's making. He never actually specified, and from some of the things he said, it seems to be going far beyond the confines of just a video game. An idea quite terrifying in its own right. Kojima's already proven what he can do in the horror sphere with PT almost a decade ago, and I'm sure it's no coincidence that this new title is also a two-lettered one. Working with Jordan Peele feels like a very visionary choice, and personally, no matter how many times I rewatch OD's teaser, I can't actually decipher what I'm looking at. Are those real faces? Are they doing that weird tracking thing LA Noire used? Are those just really good character models animated almost perfectly? I'm not sure, and honestly, that makes me really scared. I get a hideous dosage of Uncanny Valley from this thing, but I can't even figure out what about it is scaring me. And that's great for a horror game.
Well, we can't wait to learn more about what you're working on. Oh, wait. Is there somebody else at the door?
So, everyone remembers where they were for the Bill Clinton heard around the world, but do you know what this guy's been up to since? Matan Evan, the mad lad who pulled this stunt off, has been on a warpath this past year. Popping up where you'd least expect him, video bombing streamers like he's collecting points, faking just about every part of his online persona, and doing it all for seemingly no other reason than for his own entertainment.
We asked Matan about who inspires him, and his answers might surprise you.
In terms of just outside, who I get some of my moral values from, maybe like Saddam Hussein.
Those of us that have been keeping an eye on him were anxiously awaiting this year's Game Awards. It was obvious he had something brewing. Jeff announced that they'd heightened security measures, which ultimately just turned out to be a couple bodyguards and a gate before the stage, all of which culminating in perhaps the most menacing instance of someone saying "see you tomorrow" I think I've ever witnessed. However, cut to the awards end and nothing. Where was he? Where was Matan? Where was Bill Clinton 2.0? My first assumption was that this was all another bit. The ultimate punchline would be just not turning up after building anticipation for another stunt. However, upon re-inspection of that crowd, and then he got a lifetime ban from the venue. Well, allegedly anyway. This kid's faked his country of origin, so who knows how much of all of this is real. Plus, even if it is, he only got a lifetime ban from the Peacock Theatre, not the Game Awards itself. So, when the time comes for the event to move venues, I think Jeff's security team should be on high alert.
One of the things I learned is like if you just like are able to hold your nose closed and have the same speak, people are gonna really respect you a lot more.
How did you figure that out? Because that's quite an astute observation.
I just made that up.
Personally, I think the funniest aspect of this year's Game Awards was actually something not even present at the event at all. So, we all know Crash Team Rumble, right? That online 4v4 game that takes the core Crash formula and spins it into a multiplayer experience. It's the one everyone keeps saying is dead despite having a small but consistent player base. It's pretty fun in my humble opinion. Well, Season 3 of the game was scheduled for early December, eventually getting the specific release date of December 7th. Now, everyone could see where this was going. Crash has done plenty of collaborations with the Game Awards before. In fact, that's where Crash Team Rumble itself was first announced. Plus, we have Spyro joining the fray this season. A nice big collaboration. Perfect time to showcase that to a wider audience, and hopefully get a few more people checking the game out. It was obvious, everyone could see that. Absolutely no possible way it was a complete coincidence. I don't know if they had something planned and had to pull out last minute, but yeah, they dropped their Season 3 trailer and roadmap a few hours before the Game Awards started, and then that's the last we heard about Crash Team Rumble for the remainder of the night. Quite funny if you ask me, especially considering that the Game Awards Twitter account itself tweeted out about this collaboration, but then absolutely nothing came of it. Oh no, sorry, that's a lie. Crash showed up on Gonzo's conspiracy wall of chickens. That counts for something, right? You know, one thing that irks me especially about this particular event? The music. Specifically, the performances they get up on stage. It's, again, near indistinguishable from what you'd find at any other popular awards show. Sure, they're playing music from the games themselves, but it's all presented in that familiar, flavourless, squeaky clean, media-friendly way. There's no personality here. Nothing about the Final Fantasy performance says Final Fantasy, apart from the footage playing on a screen behind the performance. And it's usually like this at the Game Awards, 9 times out of 10. Always rather disappointing. That's why, when the Hellblade performance began, I was rather taken aback. This is interesting. This has personality. And funnily enough, this makes me more interested in the game it originates from. More of this kind of stuff, please. This was a genuinely awesome little moment that I've gone back to several times. More actual artistry with the way the music is delivered, please. Though you can keep the orchestra for Game of the Year. That's meant to be a big, bombastic, exuberant celebration of the 6 nominees. That works well in its current form. And speaking of... Pedro Eustache still killing it, by the way. You can't even call him Flute Guy anymore, because the man switched up instruments mid-performance like it was a damn weapons swap. God bless you, man. I am so happy to see you become a regular. Anyway, on to several games that I don't fundamentally care about.
Hey, Matan!
Alan Wake 2 Waking Harder sure is a game. And that's all I have to say about that one. Technical marvel, no doubt, but I'm a total pussy. I can't play anything even remotely scary to save my life. So, Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, haven't played this one either, but I can actually comment here. As something of a casual, hardcore Spider-Man fan, Insomniac's little trilogy of please forget we once programmed a girl's breasts to enlarge with every jump seems to have the writing down, they seem to have the concepts down, they definitely have the Venom voice down. But fuck me, these are the most bland looking visuals you can get in this industry. It's Spider-Man. It's bloody Spider-Man. Does that character in his rogues gallery not inspire anything more creative than bog standard AAA? I'm not asking for Spider-Verse tier stylization, though god would that be amazing, but those films are proof of how much you can do with Spider-Man in a visual medium. I don't care how good your facial capture is. I don't care about any ray tracing nonsense. I want to swing about a comic book world brought to life, not the exact same thing as I can find in any of the movies. Those ones are actually limited by live action. Your stuff is built in a computer. You can make whatever you want and you choose this?
I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Gonna be honest, I know fuck all about Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not even sure what genre the game is. It's realistic visuals, it's standard medieval fantasy, it just seems to be everything I personally can't stand in video games. It's obviously got its merits, I hear nothing but good things about it, and I mean, it won Game of the Year for a reason, but this one just isn't for me, I guess. Resi 4, conversely, I quite like this one. Not to play, again, remember, I'm a total pussy when it comes to anything horror.
I am weak.
But Resident Evil is one I at least like to observe from a distance. I'm somewhat fond of this franchise. That said, quite glad the game didn't end up winning, if only for the fact it's just a remake. Rocky Fence, Super Insectoid, John Wick 5 and that live-action Sony movie are at least all fresh sequels, built from the ground up, and in Mario's case that's an entirely new entry period. I'd rather one of those get the big award, simply so that remakes aren't further validated as some pinnacle of the industry. Other than that, Resi 4 seems quite solid. No vampire daughters though, so 0 out of 10. The Legend of Zelda Nuts and Bolts not to be confused with Banjo-Kazooie Tears of the Fanbase, looks amazing. I totally get why this one was up for Game of the Year. I haven't played it yet either. I think in my 4 years of covering the Game Awards, I haven't ever played any of the Game of the Year nominees. But this time, that's not out of disinterest. I really wanna give the game a shot. I wanna try out all those building mechanics. I wanna explore the world. I wanna appreciate that Zelda model. I do get it. But my problem is, the game is a big long. Now that's totally a me thing. This isn't any inherent problem with Tears of the Kingdom itself. I just personally really struggle to invest long term in these forge your own path kinda games. I put Breath of the Wild down after a few hours for that very same reason, despite loving what I played. I can't even stick with Minecraft for longer than a few days, and that's one of my favourite games of all time. So, no, I haven't played it. Not yet, at least. But I understand the hype. It certainly looked worthy of winning. However, it just wasn't quite... Mario Wonder needed to win Game of the Year, and I don't say that for any biased reasons. Not because I've played it, because I haven't gotten a chance yet. Though I did get the game as a birthday gift, so I do intend to make good on that. Not because of the visuals, not because of the concepts, not even because of Elephant Daisy and Peach, though yes. Those two are beautiful, perfect, everything right with the world, and no, I'm definitely not a furry, but because of the work ethic behind it. Mario Wonder had no deadlines or restrictions. The developers were allowed to take as long as they needed to fully flesh out their ideas. That's awesome, and that's a standard that needs to be set industry-wide. And Wonder taking home the biggest awards of the night would have been a huge step in normalizing that kind of workplace. So, from a purely moral, betterment for all game developers kinda mindset, I believe that there was no other title more deserving of Game of the Year. That said, didn't win, did it? So, oh well, back to crunching all those developers.
In my experience, a king elephant, Peach, Yoshi, or an abbot is such a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Hey, did you know that there were over 10,000 layoffs across various studios this year? Funny that Jeff didn't rush to bring awareness to that one, huh? Especially considering that he opened 2021's show by condemning the behaviour at Activision at the time. I guess these layoffs didn't get enough headlines and media attention to warrant bringing up here. I guess Activision's behaviour didn't either, because that's still going on, and yet Jeff's grown rather silent since it largely fell out of the public eye. How interesting. Ah, well, anyway, that's me for today. See ya next year, you corrupt sacks of shit.
Thank you very much, guys. Great announcement. All right, awesome. Thanks, Digga. All right, thanks, Digga. Thanks, Digga. Thanks, Digga.
That's racist. You can't say the N-word.